Where's Shane Carwin going?
Shane Carwin's going to Ryzen.
Okay.
Yeah.
He couldn't take it no more on the sidelines. He's like, fuck it.
I guess he wants to have some fun while he's still Shane Carwin. I salute that.
He could still hit harder than
Fuck
motherfucker.
yeah, he did. Did you see that Jason Ellis fight? Did you see what crazy Jason Ellis did? Jason Ellis fought Shane Carwin with one hand tied up. Shane Carwin had his right hand tied up to his body. And so Jason Ellis, like, you don't realize how big Shane Carwin is. Like, Jason Ellis is not the tiniest guy. You know, he's probably about 200 pounds. But when he's standing next to Shane Carwin, it is almost comical. Look at this. Look how big Carwin is. I mean, he's a giant. He's a fucking giant. And he's got one arm tied up. Look at this. And he looks good, dude. Like, physically, he looks jacked. Like, he hasn't fought in a while, but obviously he's been working out. I mean, he looks better than he did the last time I saw him. The last time I saw him, he was recovering from some injuries, and he was still in the UFC. So apparently he's a free agent, and I think, you know, he's fighting for Ryzen, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know he put it on his Instagram page, but he KO'd him, man. It's really kind of wrong. Like, oh, that was one punch that he hit him with. That wasn't even the punch that KO'd him, is it? No, that was like the end of a round, I think. See, this is where it KO'd him, right here. So that was the second one. I mean, that one really KO'd him. Like, you could see when he was down, he was like, fuck. I mean, that guy is so goddamn big. Carwin's a gigantic human. So they were talking about setting him up with Fedor. Like, Fedor versus Carwin. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if that does, I'm in. I'm in. I'm paying to see that. That's a dangerous fight for Fedor.
Now, where's Ryzen?
Super dangerous fight.
Where's Ryzen?
Japan.
Okay.
It's essentially the same guy who was in charge of Pride for a while. Yeah. And I believe so. And so if he goes over and fights, if Carwin goes over and fights in Japan and he fights Fedor, that's a giant fight.
When was the last time Fedor fought?
He fought Fabio Maldonado and barely squawked by. A fight that a lot of people thought that he should have lost. He got hurt. Fabio Maldonado tagged him. And there's no shame in that. Fabio Maldonado is a very good boxer. He rocked Glover Teixeira before Glover finished him off. And he's just tough as shit. He's a tough guy.
They always call that poor guy in. Like, they always,
Fabio,
Fabio's like, who are we going to get? Who will fight him? Who will be this fucking wacky to fight on short notice? Fabio Maldonado will do
you remember how he saved that fight in
Australia? Somewhere.
No, in Brazil.
Somewhere he did
fought Stipe at heavyweight. Stipe Miocic, when Stipe's just fucking tearing through the ranks, right? Stipe's trying to get a shot at the title. He fights Fabio Maldonado. Stipe just ran through him. It was horrific. You know, Stipe's a scary guy as a heavyweight. And Fabio Maldonado just was not the same size. Just did not belong in there with him, you know? Just too big, too strong, too fast, hits too hard. It was a scary fight. But when you think about Fabio rocking Fedor and hurting him in his last fight, and you think, good Lord, what if he gets hit by Carwin? Like, Carwin takes a great shot, and he hits harder than anybody in the division. He's probably one of the scariest heavyweight punchers ever. Like, literally ever. When he fought Mir, I remember he tied Mir up in a clinch and just ripped uppercuts to his chin and his face and put him down and just beat him down when he was on the ground. Like, Carwin could fucking punch. Scary puncher, man. So if he's healthy, like he looks like in that video, he looks fucking healthy to me. And he looks huge. He looks like he's like well over 260. Yeah. I don't know if Fedor... I don't know if that's the kind of fight he wants at this stage of his life. You know, after he fought Maldonado, he might be looking to fight smaller heavyweights. He might be looking to fight bigger names. Well, actually, Carwin's a pretty goddamn big name as far as the free market. But who knows what's going to happen, man? You know, with one of the crazy things with all these new organizations, whether it's ONE FC, whether it's, fill in the blank, Bellator, Ryzen, all these other... Like, everyone is scrambling to pick up anybody who leaves the UFC. So if people's contracts are up like they're starting to do, and they start bolting over and going to these other different organizations, stuff can get crazy. Like things can heat up, and you might see like another Pride UFC type rivalry, which I think would be great for everybody. Like if Ryzen really does take off, like if Ryzen puts on Fedor versus Shane Carwin, and then they come up with a bunch of other crazy fights for the undercard, you know, there's just not right now the same level of talent available outside the UFC. Not right now. But man, it's been close a few times, and it used to be, you know, obviously it used to be with Pride. But it's hard making something like that happen.
You know, I feel with like a Shane Carwin, for example. Shane Carwin was a great fighter. He hasn't thrown a punch in how many years?
He hasn't fought MMA since, I want to say it's 2 years ago.
2-3 years, okay?
At least.
In my world, I don't know. I'm not the professional here, but I think the UFC marketing would know if they could do something with a Shane Carwin. If they passed on him, maybe there's something they can do. The heavyweight division is packed. I don't know. I don't know the parameters of this.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like when a fighter hasn't fought more than a year or two, or maybe even 3, I think about comedy, Joe Rogan. And I think about if I just didn't do any comedy for 3 years, what would I be ready for? What would you, if you didn't do any comedy for 3 years, what would you honestly book yourself for in fucking December? It's October 31st. What would you book yourself for in December? The Garden?
You know, you do like the Laughing Skull in Atlanta.
Okay.
A nice, cool, intimate little room.
Very quiet.
Yeah.
99-seater, you know.
But Shane might not have a lot of money, and the Ryzen might have offered him a big check.
No, I understand all these parameters, but I'm saying to you is, you know, it's like the GSP thing that was going on. Maybe they weren't what they were. And I think even as a fighter, 2-3 years, shit has fucking changed,
Yes,
dog.
yes and no.
Fucking changed.
Yes and no. Here's the no. Depends on if you're still training. See, if you decide to take some time off because you have nagging injuries, or some fighters like that Joseph Valtellini guy we were talking about earlier, he stepped back because of concussion syndrome, because he was getting, you know, he had too many hits to the head. And so he recognized it, was having some real symptoms, and he said, you know what, I have to resign. So he gave up his belt. And taking 2 or 3 years off, if you're having any sort of real problem, maybe if you got a reoccurring back injury, which I know Shane had some back issues.
He even had surgery for
Yes. So maybe taking that time off. So it was Junior Dos Santos was his last loss, and that was UFC 131 in, wow, 2011. So that's 5 fucking years ago, almost, you know, 5.5 years ago.
Guys, the heavyweight division has come and gone in 5 years.
That's a long
GSP
time.
wants to come back and now to 170. The 170 has come and gone. Tyrone Woodley is the champion, and Wonder Boy is #1. These kids weren't even around when GSP fucking dropped off. Oh, Tyrone Woodley was,
well,
but not Stephen Thompson. I mean, it's a whole breath of fucking fresh air they're coming into.
It is. I think what Michael Bisping was doing was pretty smart, trying to get GSP to fight him in Toronto.
Sure.
It's like, let's do it, man.
Fuck yeah, that's a great one.
I don't know if George wants to fight at 185. I think George has even said that he can make 155. You know, the difference between the size of guys today versus the way they were then, it's, you know, guys are way more sophisticated about weight cutting. And I don't think George lifts as much weights anymore. I don't think he's as big as he used to be. Who the fuck knows, man? You know, I think if the guy wants to compete,
fast.
the game moves very fast.
MMA has moved so much in 2-3 years that, you know, they got a lot of these people that are watching UFC today don't even really know who Shane Carwin is. We've got a whole new batch of audience that's coming.
That is true.
And the
but
same
you know,
has even worked for GSP. I'm a fan of GSP. I love to see him fight again. But I had to ask myself questions as the UFC. Like, I want to learn. It's like watching fucking Shark Tank. You know what I'm saying? You want to learn.
Well, I think the UFC's argument, as far as what I had heard, and this is all the shit I read online. I don't talk to the UFC about business.
No.
I'm
You're
not
like,
interested.
we read different dumb shit.
But what I'd read online was that they were not in agreement with how much money it was going to cost to promote a fight with them, and that the people that watch the fight today, that are fans of Ronda Rousey and they're fans of Conor McGregor and all these current UFC fighters, that maybe these fans that have only been fans for a couple of years, they kind of forgot
This
GSP,
is what I was thinking just
care.
on my own. I'm like, in 3 or 4 years, Ronda.
Right, but you don't think that it would take one one fucking promotional special, one thing they do on Fox for people remember. Just watch some of the fucking epic fights with John Fitch, with BJ Penn. You know, watch him submit Matt Hughes when Matt Hughes is at the top of the world. Watch him beat down Matt Serra after Matt Serra stopped him and won the title. You watch some of those fights, and then you hear him talk, and you see what a gentleman he is. Come on, man.
No, I know.
That guy's golden.
I love him to death.
He's golden.
Even the 4 names you mentioned, they're fucking dinosaurs.
I agree. But you know what I think a guy like GSP has to do? He's got to do a tune-up fight. I really believe that.